Do you remember visiting the university like back in the day, or is it too long ago?
No, I can remember very clearly. It was probably the day they told me I was going to come there, probably the best day of my life because I was so excited. You can imagine like a almost 10-year-old boy, and it was like you were my stars. Like, and yeah, I remember they told me you're going to Nottingham, and I was like, oh my god, maybe I'll meet Martin, like, at the supermarket. And they said, you are going to meet Martin. And I was amazed, like never been happier probably.
How had you gotten into watching the videos? Like it seems you seem quite young to be watching chemistry videos.
Yeah, so one day my dad randomly found the hydrogen video.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Of course, this was a big explosion, so every 8-year-old would have been happy about that. And then it was just like I was binge watching them all the time. And of course, I didn't understand most of the chemistry because, again, I was 8. But yeah, then it was just things just took over from there.
I can imagine a lot of 8-year-olds have different interests, chemistry,
Yeah.
dinosaurs, cars, and that. But you've stuck with chemistry. What was it about chemistry that made you stick with it? Or did you go away from chemistry and come back? Or from that point on, did chemistry just grab you?
No, I think like I was already oriented on making big messes with, in the kitchen. That's just. But then chemistry was like putting a purpose into making messes, and so then it's just stuck with me because I was like, well, I can do my mess, in the kitchen, but then it also has a meaning maybe. So and then of course it all the glassware and the everything which makes chemistry interesting made it interesting for me as well. So
Was it you were good at it at school? Like it was always the subject you were getting strong marks? Like it seemed, did it come naturally to you? The
not
theory side of it?
necessarily. Not necessarily. Like at school, I've never been the best in everything. So I wasn't the classical, nerd who did everything perfectly. But yeah, after I, started growing this big passion for chemistry, of course it became more and more natural for me. But I don't think it was something that was in me from the beginning. It just developed, in time.
You talk about liking making a mess and the explosions and that
Yeah.
fun side of chemistry. Have you developed any passion for the more theoretical side of it and that the more academic side of it, or are you still all about the mess?
No, I developed a passion for understanding why things happen, of course. But I think you have to start from some place where you're interested, and it's just your guts telling you, "Wow, that's amazing," and then you'll have the motivation to study the theory which maybe sometimes is a bit less exciting, of course. But when you understand it, it makes so much sense that it becomes just as interesting.
Do you still watch chemistry videos?
Yeah, whenever I follow a large number of YouTube channels, and both theoretical ones or purely experimental ones, and yeah, I just on YouTube I basically only watch chemistry or some little bit of entertainment, but mostly chemistry. Yeah.
Do you still watch Martin, or have you grown out of that?
No, I will never grow out of that. I still rewatch the videos sometimes because yeah, there's just it's a very special way of telling things, and not only from a chemical point of view, but in general, it's not that easy to convey information in that particular way. So I feel like I can learn a lot from just the communication part alone. That's already a huge part of it.
Tell me how you came to come up with this thalidomide reaction then. What's the story?
The story is it's all about inspiration again, because about a year and a half ago, me and my other course mate who did this work with me, we met this young man who had recently released a podcast which is called Pharmacon, which is all about the story behind thalidomide. And he is a science communicator, in Bologna, where we study, and we met him at an open day of the university. And we spent a whole afternoon chatting with him. And at the end of the day, we said to each other, well, he has a whole podcast about thalidomide, but he probably doesn't have any thalidomide in his office, We could make some and then give it to him just, for fun. Because at the time, both me and my friend had a home lab. Now I don't have it anymore because I just recently moved. But so we tried making it, and it wasn't as easy as we thought, because the molecule isn't that complicated. But the procedures were either very old and not very good, or they were very new, but they used some exotic reagents that we didn't have, of course. So then we started working on it just for fun. And at the end of the process, we said, like 6 months ago, we said, well, at this point, we still had a lot of ideas we wanted to expand, but we didn't have time. So we just said, well, let's see if it's possible to publish somewhere the small amount of things we discovered.
So the previous ways to make thalidomide, as I understand it, had multiple steps, and you guys have made it one step. Was it your goal to come up with a new way to make it, or were you just trying to make it and you stumbled across one step?
Yes, we were trying to make it just to have it, because it's a very symbolic molecule. Every chemistry student has heard of it because it's a great example of how enantiomers have radically different properties. And we were trying to make it, but we didn't have maybe some of the chemicals, so we just stitched together a whole lot of different information from different procedures and papers and patents, and then this came out as a byproduct.
How did it feel when you realized you'd made it after trying for a while and you finally got it? What did you and your course mate do?
I think it was the first time, hopefully the first of many times, that I felt like a true researcher, because I remember we were doing this in between lessons at the university, like lectures and everything. So we would work at night or the evening, and then the next morning we would meet at our lectures and say, what did you do? And one morning I had this very small vial, I still have it somewhere, with a very small amount of white powder. And, it was went to take a melting point, and it was exactly the one in literature. So we were super excited. And from there we said, well, we can make it better, because I struggled so much to get that very small amount that, that was using an old procedure. So we said, well, let's try and make it be better, because we need it to work better.
It must. I feel the excitement, like finding something new and a new way to do something must feel like being an explorer.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason I want to be a researcher in the future, because even if for most people probably what researchers do most of the times isn't really relevant, because it's very specific things, but for you researcher, you're doing this in the lab, and maybe you're just putting even physical energy into it, because you're staying up maybe, or you're working hard in the lab to get something which you can see with your eyes out of it. That's pretty amazing.
Is thalidomide still useful? Have you done this more as an academic exercise and just to put new knowledge into the field, or could there be some usefulness to a new way of making thalidomide?
Yeah, we did this only for fun. Okay, but it came out after about a year we were doing this. We discovered it's still useful, actually. I believe it's used for leprosy, to cure one of the symptoms of leprosy, and maybe some other relatively rare diseases. But it's not as widespread as the 50s or the 60s, where it was really used for a ton of different things.
Excellent. So what next? Where are you now? Your studies? Like, are you still an undergraduate or you're postgraduate? I don't know. Where are you at with your chemistry journey?
So currently, I'm in my third year of my bachelor's degree in industrial chemistry in Bologna, and my plan at the moment is to take an extra year, because I want to. So we have to do an internship in our research labs. And most people just do the bare minimum, which is 250 hours, and that's it. But if I will have the opportunity, I would like to stay there as much as possible, maybe even a few months, and then write my thesis only at the end. And then a year later, compared to my course mates, I would like to go to Stockholm, because there is a very good master's degree in organic chemistry. which is quite rare to find. I discovered recently that there are only a few in the world which do mostly organic chemistry. So yeah, hopefully I'm headed there.
And what would your ideal like final destination be? Like, do you want to be in industry or in academia, or where would you like to be?
I want to be in academia. If I have the opportunity, I would just like to. I started 3 years ago studying at the university, and I would like to retire from being a professor and researcher in some kind of university. I don't care where in the world. Like, I care, but I mean, it's not important that it's in Italy or somewhere else. I have some ideas where I want to go, but the important bit is that I stay in university, in academia.
Is Nottingham on the list?
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. I actually met one of your researchers. He's Italian. Last year, he came to give a lecture at our university, and I spoke with him. And he works in the carbon neutral laboratories, I believe. And he just told me how good it is. So yeah, that's definitely, maybe for a PhD or something, that's on the list for sure.
When he was 9, he emailed me about the lab he had built in his bedroom. And I had to write back an email.
That's what I had done.
I had to write back an email saying that bedrooms really aren't the best place to do chemical experiments.
But you used to do chemical experiments in your bedroom.
No, I didn't. I had a separate room. My parents' old kitchen in the basement.
Okay.
And though I did have a big rack of chemicals above my bed.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't actually do the reactions in the bedroom.
Martin told me some story that, did you have like a lab in your bedroom or something?
Yeah, so he sent me a few weeks ago these very embarrassing photos of my first lab, which it was, no, if I see it, I didn't see those photos for, last maybe 6-7 years. Seeing them again, it was quite strange because, literally like 3 chemicals, 2 of which were maybe bought at the supermarket, and maybe 1 beaker or a few test tubes. And yeah, it started there. I wasn't doing anything spectacular, not even that dangerous. But then Martin told me, you probably shouldn't have a lab in your bedroom. And then my brother was in the same bedroom, and he wasn't very happy as well, probably. So I slowly, throughout the years, I just moved to the laundry room. And then I just very slowly started, getting more space and moving things around. And until a few months ago, I had a whole room for myself. But then we moved, so yeah, I don't have it anymore, unfortunately.
You are now an inspiration to young people watching these videos, though, because so many young people watch these videos, and I guess they might think, oh, I wonder if I could become a chemist. Oh, probably I couldn't. And now you're in the videos. You've got your own reaction. This is amazing. Yeah,
this is something I probably never would have thought of happening. Like this moment right now, I've never dreamt of it or nothing, because it's amazing. But I really believe that inspiration is the biggest part of this. Even the thalidomide story, right? It's not about what we did actually, because we didn't do that huge discovery or nothing. It's about the fact that someone made a podcast and we were inspired by that podcast, right? So even if we didn't do anything about it, even if we just did the research in literature, still it would have been a huge thing for me, because it's not common.
You say you'd like to go into academia, like, long term, and become a successful chemistry professor. For what would you like to accomplish in that? Like, I know there are lots of things a professor can do. They can teach, they can educate the next generation, they can do research, they can come up with new reactions and processes like you have started to do. What would you most like to be doing? Would you like, what excites you about the future in chemistry?
Well, I think of course, I really enjoy the research part, but I really, really also enjoy teaching. In the last few years, I've been helping high school students, which were struggling with chemistry, and I still do. And even usually the people I meet are, the worst ones in their classrooms, because otherwise they wouldn't come to me. But still, I just like it so much to, really convey all of my passion, because I think most of the people who find science or chemistry boring or obnoxious, it's really just because they have maybe some poor teachers or they're not really inspired. And being able to inspire people, I think it's just like a superpower. It's amazing.
The reaction has turned a very deep, almost black colour, so you can see that there's definitely a reaction that has occurred. I've lifted it up from the heat, I've turned the stir plate off, and I'm now going to put the reaction into an ice bath to help it cool down and hopefully crystallise out our product.